Right, we are back again, and a familiar face, Danny
Yes.
boy. We are one day out. So how many hours now? We're looking at 13, maybe 13 hours out
Yeah, till we're on stage.
till we're on stage, and we are finally competing in a natural show. So this is the first ever OCB show in the UK. Danny is competing in the open bodybuilding class because he's not a first timer, not a novice anymore.
No,
because
it's sad.
we won the show. That was the initial plan. This was going to be our first show of the season, but we jumped in the other one early, and this is the final show of the season, and there is a pro card up for grabs, and that is an OCB pro card. First OCB show, so it's a American federation predominantly. It's the first one in the UK. We're over in London. We've got a really nice Airbnb. It's actually ended up being really good.
It's well nice.
It is. It is very spacious, and we've got everything we need. It's currently 9:15. Danny's had his final meal. We've had some peak max, and this is the best look so far of prep for sure. How do you feel, mate? Give a little rundown.
I feel great, to be honest with you. So since 2 weeks ago, stepped off stage, we haven't been under 2,500 calories.
Nope.
We haven't been under 350 carb on any day because my body's just been soaking it up. No cardio, low steps. So been feeling great, just holding the look. Very excited to step on stage tomorrow. Hopefully the show runs well and everything goes good. And we should be done by 1 p.m.
Yeah,
And
around that time.
then, yeah, I can just enjoy the rest of the day with my family. So it's going to be fantastic. But very excited to step on stage tomorrow.
This one will be a special one for sure, because last time it was just me, Danny, and his partner. This time Danny's got all of his family coming, friends as well. So it's very, very exciting. And London as well, being where Danny goes to uni, so it's quite nice for him. And we've got Matt here, who's just gone and trained Butcher's Wet Dream, or what he's formerly known as, but Butcher Natural Physiques, Danny's posing coach, has come down as well, which is fantastic. And just to give you a bit of a rundown of what we've done so far. So as of stepping off stage from the previous show, Danny's lowest food was really like around 300 gram of carb rest day, and we were mainly like over 400 gram on training day, bumping it up throughout the week. So peak week, he's been eating roughly 500 gram of carb every single day plus.
It's been quite nice.
It has been nice, and the look's been holding, and that's what happens when you get ready early. You can linear load into shows, actually reverse out of the diet and keep looking better and better. And the sort of protocol we've been doing is, as we get into peak week, lowering protein, lowering fiber, so that digestion's good, upping carbohydrates, pump sessions throughout peak week, assessing the look 3 times a day, which has been a bit of a pain, no doubt about it.
Massive pain. That's got to be done.
Just making sure everything's all good. And then today has been the case of yesterday. We had a big carb day. Today, first 3 meals were 100 gram of carbohydrate, and then the other 2 were around 40 gram of carbs with low protein, no veg. Just to really sit tight. And right before the final meal, we will check him out in just a moment, but Danny looked insane, the crispest he's ever looked, and this is pre-bed, lines everywhere, best look by a mile. And tomorrow is just going to be insanely dry. And this is the first time, like, even though food's lower today, weight is like relatively higher compared to what it normally is.
Yeah, it's actually sort of held in the evening, which is it's a good sign.
Very good sign, because we wanted the carbs to stick, because before Danny would have these crazy high carb days, wake up at new lows or max lows.
When my steps are at 15k,
just bumping him up and up and up every single day. But it's worked well, and we've just gone over post-show plans very briefly, giving him his diet plan for post-show, so he's comfortable, happy, and we're taking the recovery diet approach. So it's more about chucking on some body fat, getting healthy, feeling good, bringing back the hormones, all these different things, and assessing. I'll still be checking in with Danny every day, but it won't be to sort of the prep standard where Danny's got to give me loads of information. So he's he still feels like he wants to do the check-ins, and we'll go back to all the looms and stuff, which is exciting. But Danny, is there anything you want to say in terms of, once again, like people you want to thank, or anything you want to say just in general? Take the spot, mate.
God, put me on my toes now. No, obviously, it's been. I've had so much support this prep, especially being my first prep. You don't know how you're going to be on it. The last few weeks have been good. They've been amazing. Can you swear on your channel?
Yeah, you can.
They've been fucking great. Yeah, because we got the hard work out the way in the summer. Well, I say summer, like the last 10 weeks, we've got the hard work out the way. But no, my family has been so supportive. My brothers, my mum, my dad, especially over the summer when I was struggling a bit more. My girlfriend Fern has put up with me. Not really, like, you don't realise when you are on prep, you're not really able to be as present. So there is a bit of sacrifice in that. So thank you for dealing with that. Freddie, my friend who's coming to stay with us in a little bit actually for tonight, he's coming to watch my show tomorrow. He's been amazing all prep. And then Matt, obviously opposing coach, he's fantastic. Shame he's not here right now for the video, but he's gone to hit upper in. Like, it shows his dedication. Yeah. And then obviously Mikey, fantastic coach and a really good friend. So
100%, mate. And that's one thing. Danny knows I hate this. I hate it when he says thank you, Mikey.
No, he hates it so much. Never say thank you to him because he just hates it.
Not in that regard. It's more the fact that I'm just giving a plan, right? I'm here helping him. But the most important thing is Danny has executed it with no fail, right? He's done everything he needs to do. And that's where the hard work happens. I really don't like it when coaches take credit for how a client looks because they're not the one suffering throughout prep. Like, they're not the one doing the work. They're just telling them what to do. And it's not hard. Like, yes, it is sometimes hard making sure you're making the right choices. But ultimately, it's down to the actual athlete themselves. And Danny's been fantastic this whole entire prep. These last 2 weeks have been much better just because of the fact there's been more food. We haven't been digging whatsoever, but the look is better because we've been reversing out of the diet, less fatigue, way fresher, like everything's getting better and better. And in turn, his mood's been better. And that's another thing I mentioned before, psychological aspect of prep and of your clients you've got to take into consideration because that can affect the look a million times more, right? I could have dug him for another week, but then he could have come into peak week feeling incredibly down, feeling worse, getting into arguments or whatever the case is. We don't want that, right? So don't want to chat for much longer because we want Danny going to sleep soon for sure. But let's have some fun tomorrow, mate. Definitely going to be a very, very good one and a awesome wrap to my first ever season with a client and your first ever bodybuilding prep. So it's pretty very exciting stuff, mate. Let's get it, Danny. It's time to make a statement tomorrow.
Yes, we're gonna come in good.
Perfect stuff. Right, see you in show day.
This is the big one. This is our men's bodybuilding.
Yes, Danny!
Come on to the stage, guys. You get 4, 10, 12, 14, 21, 22, 23.
Let's go, Danny.
20.
Straight in. Towards the judge. Yes, Danny.
Yes! Yes, come on.
Lovely, Danny.
I need 4 and 21.
Yes, Danny.
Danny.
Straight in, come on, mate.
One spin, quarter turn to the right.
Show the definition off. Come on, Danny. Yes, mate. Beautiful. All the air out. Get the air out. Yes, beautiful. Come on. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Nice, Danny. Nice and wide. Yes, perfect. Straighten out the triceps. Yeah, perfect. Straight in, Danny. Arm in, arm in, arm in. Yes, perfect. Beautiful, mate. Lovely, Danny. Transition into the classic, yeah? Yes, Danny. Beautiful, mate. So good. Come on. Show the lines off. Yes. Chest nice and high. Yeah, nice, mate. Glutes, glutes.
Lovely, Danny.
Yes, nice.
Hamstrings, Oshin. Hamstrings.
Yes. Squeeze, yes, Danny. Nice, mate. Beautiful. Toe spike, toe spike. Yes, Danny.
Most muscular. Yeah.
Come on, Great Britain.
Toe spike.
Who's it gonna be?
Yeah.
Stevie. Body's gonna go.
Show the glutes. Yeah. Glutes. Yeah. Nice, mate.
Come on, guys, have some fun up there.
Get a crab in, Danny. Crab.
And relax, everybody in the back.
Most muscular. Another. Yeah.
Great job, guys. Second place, athlete number 21, Boston Rosa. And your new working on the open road, athlete number 4,
Yes, man. Yes, Danny.
So YouTube, welcome back to this video. This is after Danny has won his OCB Pro card. My first ever client I've taken to stage, Danny's first ever prep, his second show of the season. You may or may not have seen the previous video I uploaded, which was Danny competing in an untested PCA show in London, which he won the first time as class, and then had a blast in the overalls, which I think he was up for contention for. He was definitely up in the ranks there, which was amazing. But first things first, I want to say, Danny, massive congratulations, mate. You treated this whole prep like a true professional. You smashed it. There is nothing more I could have asked for you to do. We came for exactly what we wanted. You know, we weren't too sure if we were going to get an OCB Pro card when we started, but we said, hey, we're going to go for some wins. And we came out with more than we wanted. And you listened to me the entire time. You trusted me more than anything. Being my first prep client, I'm sure it was a bit scary for you, being like, oh, Mikey's never prepped anyone before, but hey, we did it, mate. We smashed the peak weeks. The peak weeks went to perfection. We got you into phenomenal condition. And, you know, Danny knows I always like to say, mate, thank yourself. So I always like Danny saying thank you to himself, because he's very appreciative and he says thank you to me a lot. But I say, hey, it wasn't me. It was you, mate. You were the one that put in the work. I can give anyone a plan, but if they don't put the work in and they don't follow it, they're never going to get the results. So, Danny, be proud of yourself, mate. Be thankful that you were able to achieve what you achieved because of your own hard work, okay? And I'm glad to have been able to be a part of that journey, and I'm glad to have said that you were my first ever prep client, and hopefully many, many more to come. But I'll always remember this one. I'll always have a special place in my heart. But speaking of card, yeah, first ever prep client, 2 gold medals, an overall, and a pro card as a natural athlete. I don't think there's anything more we could have asked for. Absolutely ridiculous results, and I just wanted to sit here and kind of take you guys through what I did and what Danny did for his lead up to this show, and kind of the previous aspects of it. So Danny came to me at 12 weeks out. He had already been dieting himself a bit since January, so he wasn't in bad body composition whatsoever. Came to me at around 73 kilograms, and the lowest prep weight was the low 68s. I think it was 68 on the dot was the lowest we got to. And show day morning, we were around 68.5, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think it might have been a bit more because we were filling them up for ages, but I'll go into that for just a moment. So it was a quiet, intense fat loss period, getting him ready. I said, look, Danny, we're probably not going to be able to have any refeeds just because of the time period we're in. However, because he stuck to things, there was. we focused on making sure we found his baseline for food, fixed up and changed training a little bit, make sure the activity was at a set point in terms of his steps and his cardio, supplementation, nutrition, all of these different things were all set in place. And Danny working a pretty intense job in terms of being on his feet all day. We had to manage around that as well. We got him into very good condition, and then it got to the point where we were having quite high frequency, high days or refeed days where we were boosting him back up, focused around the training sessions that we wanted to make sure we were preserving the most, i.e. his legs, his back, etc., the sort of weaker parts of his body. And as it came into the peak week for the previous show, it was a case of we linear loaded him at around 7 days out and built him up. He was pretty much eating 500 grams of carb plus every single day that peak week, slowly incrementing it upwards as it got closer to show day, lowering his fiber, lowering his protein intake so digestion was sound, water intake and salt intake stayed the same, utilized peak max a little bit on the day of the show. And then he came away with a gold. Now going into the exciting part was this show, which was a sort of a 2-week gap period in between the shows. This was our only planned show, but we jumped into the the London show previous. And that was more of the fact of, one, reduces nerves for Danny, right? He can say he's been on stage, he can say he's stepped up, he's had the tanning process, enjoyed it, and PCA is very well run. So it'd be the case of, I knew he was gonna have a fantastic time at PCA, get rid of some nerves, practice a peak week. I knew what I was doing for the peak week anyway, just wanted to make sure if there was any tweaks I wanted to make for the next one, because the OCB one was the one that we wanted to do really well for, and there were some tweaks that I made, which I'll take you through. But yeah, he had a blast up there. It was a great experience. We learned what we needed to do coming into the OCB. That was pumping up, tanning, glaze, etc., etc., and a few posing tweaks as well. Now, after that show, it was a case of, I knew fat loss was done for Danny. If I dug him down for more fat loss to maybe get 1 or 2 extra lines out of his glutes, it wouldn't have been the best look, right? He would have withered away, would have felt shit psychologically, probably would have started resenting the prep. And my thought process behind the peak week going into the OCB show, so the 2-week gap period, was cool. My whole sole purpose right now is to start reversing him out of the diet, because we all know if you take a reverse seriously and reverse out of a diet, you end up looking better the first sort of week or 2 weeks. You can start reducing fatigue, filling up your glycogen stores more, and it doesn't require any crazy loading, which might cause some GI distress or some distress in general, maybe psychologically, which we all know as a coach, you really need to take into account your athlete's psychological state. That is such an important factor. And essentially, food went straight up, baseline food went straight up. Cardio was pulled out at least 4 weeks out of 3 weeks out of this show. So 2 weeks out from the first show, so it would have been 4 weeks it was pulled out in total. Steps were sitting at a baseline of around 11,000, and then it was a case of, cool, we're building up food. Training, we'll go back to a normal week of training, not super intense because we didn't have much of a time period to reduce fatigue. It's a case of, right, Danny, steps baseline. Food was building up that entire week. I think baseline rest days was like 300 grams of carb, training day 400 grams of carb. It was pretty insane. He was still dropping weight off, and that is dictated through the drop off in fatigue. Because when fatigue drops off, you sleep better, you train better, you digest food better, right? It's a golden rule. To load someone or to peak them for a show, fatigue needs to be dropped off, because if fatigue is high and your body is not feeling good, it cannot uptake the food, you'll get watery, you'll look like a mess, okay? So people who are still doing cardio leading up to the show, crazy amount of steps, training at full intensity, whilst trying to peak them in terms of giving them more food, it's just never gonna work. It's some people it might, but 99% of the time, you're not gonna load, you're not gonna peak if you're fatigued, okay? So that was the sole focus for that week. And then leading into the second week, peak week started on Saturday. It was his final leg day. This is where 2 to 3 reps in reserve training started. It was more of the case of, we are focusing on a pump, right? So it was less eccentric loading, more squeezing blood throughout the muscles, focusing on the warm up of the sessions as well, making sure we're getting blood floating around. And I said, Danny, no more than 45 minutes to an hour in your session. I gave him the exact workout, exact sets, etc., etc., so that he knew he had the structure. Water and salt stayed the exact same through this peak week. And it was a case of, in that peak week, weight was still sort of either dropping a little bit or holding, and I knew we were still a little bit flat. So I started a linear load where I was increasing his carbohydrates, assessing the look, assessing the weight, and every single morning he got better and better and better. So carbs kept going up and up and up. So essentially he ended on around 550 grams of carb, leading into Thursday, and that was his final training session. Friday was more of a baseline session where I said to him, okay, first 3 carb meals are going to be 100 gram of carb. Okay, first 3 meals, 100 gram of carb. The second 2, so the last 2 of the night, are going to be a little less. Okay, so this is in time for tanning, before bed, etc. right? And this is a different approach I took for him. I knew Danny looks really good when he has less water in his system. Now there has to be enough to uptake the carbohydrates and to get a pump, so there's a fine line you want to balance. But sometimes, like for example with me, the more water I had in the morning, the better I looked. But some people just look waterier, right? And we identified that with Danny. Okay, so it was a case of 4th meal on the Friday, it was 1 serving of Peak Max. So 4 capsule Peak Max in. And Peak Max is a natural diuretic, if you don't know. And we cut off water by around 5-6 p.m. And then he had another litre to drink before 5-6 till 9 p.m. So that was kind of the cut-off window, right? Final meal, 8 p.m. Once again, it was around 40 gram of carb. These last 2 meals, I gave him another serving of Peak Max. So that was another one going in. And water was finished off. Before bed, he looked amazing. I knew he was going to wake up at a really good weight because weight was holding in a place that I knew he would finish off after we did crazy high carb days, whereas today it was less carbs. So I was like, perfect, he's full, but he's still dry, okay? So it was an amazing look in the night. And, you know, in my mind, I was like, do I give him more carbs because he's extremely dry? I said, no, I don't want to risk the chance of Danny looking at himself in the mirror, thinking he looks shit, and then that stress accumulating, and then him looking worse on show day. He was so happy with his look. It was the best look we had all of prep. So let's float into it. I've got an idea for tomorrow. So we wake up on the Saturday morning show day. We had a pro fats meal, so it's 25 gram of dark chocolate, 30 gram of whey, and another serving of Peak Max, okay? And then I said, look, Danny, this amount of water, X amount of water, I believe it was 700 ml in the morning, drink that before this time, and have this meal, okay? So that's what we were drinking, assessing the look, assessing the weight. Now, Danny was starting to look a little bit flatter, but I knew that's because Danny hadn't had a pump, hadn't really moved, hadn't drank as much water, hadn't had any pump product, hadn't had any salt. So I knew this was gonna be the case, and this is where I could have panicked and said to Danny, right, shit, we need more food, we need more water. But I knew based on the data we had previous, this happens and he looks better after X. So this is the approach that we had. We looked at him when we got into the show. He had his final show tanning done. And I gave him another pro fats meal because we were on around 11 o'clock. This was 9. So he ate his first meal around 5:30, then 9, just to carry him over so he wasn't rumbling in his belly and he had a bit of food in him, right? Then it came to the show. I knew I had to pump Danny up a lot earlier than most people, right? And another thing, I was gonna do my glaze myself, okay? I was gonna do the glaze for him. So it was around 45 minutes before the stage, and I knew when Danny was doing his pump sessions for peak week, right, he looked insane, right, especially after his first meals. And this is like, right, I'm gonna pump him up like crazy, 45 minutes. So for around 10 minutes, warming him up, right, doing posing with all of his clothes on, press ups, a bit of band work, right, getting him nice and warm, clothes off, okay? And this is where I gave him 2 rice cakes, a shitload of honey. He had that, okay, twists of salt, pump product in at around 30 to 20 minutes out, okay? Still pumping up this whole time, getting it all flowing because there was no fats. It literally went through him like that. So it was all starting to show. Then clothes were off. I saw the veins popping through, crazy. Around 10 minutes out, a little bit more honey, cranks of salt. That's a bit sus. Lots of cranks of salt because we all know a salt gives you a good pump. He already had the pump product already, which was a Perform non-stim pre-workout with glycosides and a bit more salt in there. So we had a lot of salt because I knew Danny's response to salt would he'd like overcompensate, super compensate, and he would look insane on stage. And it was a case of they would do pre-judging for Danny's class, and then there was no more posing, right? So it wasn't a case of I had to manage if he was gonna look watery in the overalls. It was like they did it, that was the overalls, and then there was routines and then awards, right? So I knew I could get him looking absolutely insane for the first moment he's on the stage, and then he hold it, right? And then he holds that look rather than risking him getting waterier, etc. So I overcompensated him like crazy. There was a super compensation through carbs and salt intake in creating that sort of vascularity we were looking for. I was pumping him up, did the glaze. Everyone else was getting their own glaze. I said, Danny, no, I'm gonna do your own glaze. So I glazed him up, looked phenomenal. Everyone else looked like they had a matte finish, so they didn't look glazed whatsoever, whereas Danny completely shone out on the stage. He looked amazing, and the glaze did the job. A lot of people were like, oh, who glazed Danny? I was like, oh, it's me. Not to take credit for him winning because of that, but it definitely made a difference, right? And No one else was really pumping up before Danny. I was just getting him warm, ready, like up on the stage, because it was cold, right? A lot of people were freezing. I wanted him nice and warm and vascular. He came on the stage. Second, he was posing, veins everywhere, hard as nails. And he was getting harder as he posed, harder, because I knew every time he posed, every time he did workouts, he just looked better and better because he was warmer, had salt, had carbs in him, and we obviously had a bit more water as well. It was around 1.5 litres before we stepped on stage through 5:30 a.m. to around 10 a.m. and there was no more water after that. So that was kind of the approach that we took with that. Then, as we were posing on stage, I pretty much knew Danny won, right? There was another athlete that I was a bit like, oh, they could win because they were a lot bigger than Danny, but Danny's condition shone out. I made sure to get right at the front of the stage. You probably heard me screaming a million different things. I was just screaming at Danny, glutes on, hamstrings, bring your arm in, smile, like show your striations. And I think the judges could hear me, which, you know, that also makes a difference because then they were like, oh, who is he shouting at? Is he doing that? Let's see those striations. Let's see those glutes, let's see those hamstrings. That makes a difference, right? And then, of course, Danny won the first ever open bodybuilding pro card in the UK for the OCB, which is immense. And I screamed my life off. We had a good time. Danny enjoyed some food afterwards. The day before, you would have seen I already gave him his recovery diet plan, the plan of action. We had a debrief yesterday. Talked about the show, how he's managing post-show, which he's managing it like a professional. Seriously, he's on a lot more food than you'd ever expect. I think you'd be shocked the amount of food that he's on. I'm talking almost 4,000 calories on his training day, 3,650 rest days, because why would you want to give someone less food, increasing the chances of binging, when for the first week I'd rather overcompensate with whole foods and healthy foods and kind of set him down, getting back to reality. Appetite and satiation goes to a good spot, and if we need to adjust, we do. But guess what? He's still weighing roughly the same amount that he was before, eating that amount of food, and that goes to show the benefit of reversing someone into a show, getting them ready early and lean. But once again, want to say also a massive thank you to Matt, Butcher's Wet Dream, who came out to support us at the show as well. Danny's posing coach was fantastic having him. I'm really close friends with Matt, so it was brilliant just spending some time with him as well, making some tweaks in person. And yeah, that's that. That is the end of Danny's season. Danny, mate, I'm so proud of you. I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be. Thank you for Danny's family for coming out, and family and friends was absolutely amazing. And what a time. I absolutely love my job. I seriously do. This is a day I will never forget, a period in my life I'll never forget, and hopefully bring many, many people on stage because I love it. I love my job more than anyone will ever know, and I will carry on putting 110% into every single one of my clients, whether they're a prep client, whether they're a lifestyle client, whatever it is. I will always put in 100%. Everyone knows that. So on that note, I will say if you are interested in coaching whatsoever, just click the link in the description. It will send you straight to my WhatsApp. You can send over an inquiry and we can sort it out from there. But on that note, have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. Enjoy the video. Danny, proud of you one more time, mate. I know I've said it a million times, but I seriously am. And, you know, sometimes it's important just to sit down, reflect on how good life is and how appreciative I am of things happening and the way that they're happening, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'll leave it on. If you've got something that you really want to do and you know you might be scared because you might not know more than others, or you might doubt yourself, just give it a try. There's only one way to find out, and most of the time you prove yourself wrong if you truly do care, because if you do care, you will do more and try harder to do the things correctly, right? That's something I've learned a lot. You will find ways to make things work if you truly care and you want to do well in it. So have a lovely one. I'll catch you soon. Let's get it. OCB professional Danny. Let's go.